Hi, my name is Josephine Cox and I'm the People and Culture Business Partner for ISS Food Services. When you're looking for a new job, it's an extremely anxious time, and even more so given the current COVID-19 climate that we're experiencing. I therefore wanted to share with you my top 5 tips to try and help deal with some of that anxiousness once you're looking for a job. So my first tip would be make your search as wide as possible. Get on every single recruitment agency you possibly can on the internet. Register with the Job Centre Plus. But also remember, you will have a wide group of friends and family who may have links in our industry and therefore be able to help you by sharing your CV with them, looking out for roles that they may see on their own LinkedIn profiles or in other areas. So reach out to as wide a resource as possible. Tip 2 would be plan for interviews. Now, this seems really obvious, yet time and time again when I've been conducting interviews, people haven't really put in that extra little bit of prep. And what I mean for that is, if you have a job spec or a job description for the job that you're applying for, go through it in detail. Write a little note in the column next to each one or on your pad to give examples of how you meet that specific criteria. And then take those notes into an interview with you. If you walk in with some notes, just to remind yourself, especially during an emotional time, sometimes we forget to say something that we might have said, or we forget an example. And if you've got it there written on a piece of paper, it can help to remind yourself and also help deal with that anxiety. Because tip 3 would be research the question styles. So a very common use of questioning in interviews now is called competency-based interview. And this is where they're asking for an example of something that you've done. So for instance, tell me about a time where you've dealt with a specifically difficult customer demand. And what they're looking for is the beginning, a middle, an end. And for those higher points in a competency-based interview, what you did next. So the beginning, what happened? The middle, what did you do about it? The end, how did it conclude? And for that little bit extra, what did you do with that? Did you share best practice with the rest of your colleagues? Did it influence any policies or procedures or any processes within the business in which you work? Did anything change as a result of that going forward for the better? And use that as example. And if you make that complete circle, beginning, middle, end, then you're hopefully guaranteed to have a good answer. Also, Google competency-based interview questions, or when you're invite to the interview, you'll be told what style they're using. Is it presentations? Is it competency-based interviews? Is it going to be a task exercise where you have to rate things? So, and if you're not sure about that technique, then make sure Google is your friend. So Google competency-based interview questions, Google presentation styles, etc., etc. ACAS also have some really useful information on how to prepare for interviews, how to prep for interviews, and some really useful techniques in how to calm your mind and how to breathe during interviews, because that's really important. Don't worry if you can't give an example to the question, or if you can't answer the question because you've got nothing to draw on. What is more important is that you acknowledge that. And so that would be my tip number 4. Don't worry. Give an example. And by that I mean, so if for instance someone says, tell me about a time that you had to negotiate a new deal, and you've never done that before, or tell me about a time that you had to negotiate a new menu and you've never had to do that in your job. Don't just say, I've never done that before. What you would say is, I've never done that before, but this is what I would do and this is why I would do it. And therefore you're still demonstrating your thought processes, because in those types of questions they're looking about how you think, how you would approach an issue, and how you would get to a resolution on that. So don't panic if you don't know the answer. Still give a answer. And my final top tip would be pause and breathe. And by that I mean, when you are asked a question, don't just rush straight into answering it. Take that pause. What question are they asking you? Have a think about it. It might not be in the same format that you've prepared an answer for, so you just take that minute to think about it and then answer their question. Take that pause. What are they asking me? What do I need to answer? And it can be minuscule pause. It can be a matter of milliseconds, or it can be a little bit longer. breathe. It's really important that you get your breathing and you remember to breathe. There's so many interviews I've been in myself where I've forgotten to breathe and started to get lightheaded because I was so nervous about it. So pause and breathe. And if you're not sure about the question, ask them to explain it again. Ask them to ask it in a different way. The most important thing is, if you prepare for it, you pause, you breathe, you will get through it. I really hope you find these tips useful, and the best of luck.